Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of SecondsOut FLEXpectations. We're here every Thursday, 4:30 PM, to talk about the boxing future. I used to say boxing action to come this weekend, but obviously it's been a long time since I've been able to say that with any sincerity. It struck me this morning, this is probably not news to anyone out there, but it struck me this morning the vast majority of boxing crossover stars, top pound for pound fighters are all the wrong side of 30. Canelo Alvarez turns 30 actually in July. But the rest of them, AJ, Tyson Fury, Lomachenko, Crawford, Spence, they've all seen their 30th birthday come and go. And that doesn't mean they're near the end of the line. They're at varying degrees or varying stages of their career. But it does mean they've probably got more fights behind them than ahead of them. So I thought it'd be interesting to have a look ahead at who might be the next set of boxing superstars, the next generation, if you like, people that either already have world titles or on the cusp of that world level and have the real potential to cross over into the mainstream. Now, you're not going to agree with everyone I'll talk about, and there's probably not any major revelations here either. These are guys that are already getting hype surrounding them. But it'd just be interesting to see what you think of my picks, and also some people that I probably either haven't heard of or haven't thought of, have overlooked, and you can tell me in the comments below after you've heard who I've got to say. Teofimo Lopez is one of the first ones that comes to mind, mainly because I only recently interviewed him and was just struck once again, because it's not the first time I've spoken to him, but struck once again by the sheer charisma that he exudes when he talks. And it's just very impressive for someone so young. He's still only 22. He's already the IBF lightweight champion. Obviously, his fight with Lomachenko has been postponed. We can't wait for that. And a lot of where he goes from here, he's already got an exciting style. He can hit. He talks very well. He seems like a real level-headed young man as well. But what's really going to be pivotal for him now is what happens with the Lomachenko fight. Obviously, if he wins or he destroys Lomachenko, even as far-fetched as that might seem, he'll become a superstar overnight. There's no doubt about that. However, if he loses to Lomachenko, regardless of how close the fight is, it all depends how he bounces back. It could be a similar situation to when Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather quite early in his career. He was outclassed, but he took positives from the defeat, learned from it, and rebuilt against some tough opposition, and now sits as the premier fighter in the sport today, certainly in my opinion. If Lopez can do something similar, if he suffers defeat, and it's no foregone conclusion that he will, he brings a lot to the table against Lomachenko, then he could still go far. You've also got Javante Davis, who's one of the older ones at 25, out of the guys I'm going to highlight. And I think the big thing with him, and the talent's there, I'm not sure how many weights he can go through. He's already kind of moved through a couple of divisions, but he's not that tall. I'm not sure he's got the height and the frame to go really high up. However, he's got the personality. He's got, the exciting kind of slick, hard-hitting style. He's never been beaten. He's fun to watch. I think the main thing with him is being more active. For a start, he's lost a lot of momentum in his career. He's put on like a really good performance, and we haven't seen him for a while at times. And also fighting some bigger names, and I don't think anyone can really dispute that. He's got all the talent. I think he's 25 now, he's mature, he's approaching his physical peak. It's time to take a few risks with him and really kind of get him out 2-3 times a year, and in big fights each time. He's got the ability to carry it off, and if his handlers have got the belief in him that their words and their statements say they have, then let's see him really test himself. At Golden Boy, obviously we've talked about a PBC fighter and a top ranked fighter. At Golden Boy, they're pinning their hopes, I think, on Ryan Garcia, assuming he stays with Golden Boy for the long term. Obviously there's been some friction in recent times. Ryan Garcia, often compared with his promotional boss Oscar De La Hoya, now training in the Canelo camp as well, which will only bring him on. Seemed like he was kind of a protected prospect on the way up. In his last couple of fights, he's really shown some flair and some power. And I think a lot of people are now taking note. He's supposed to be fighting Jorge Linares once the shutdown finishes. I think that will tell us a lot. No question, it looks like great matchmaking on paper. Linares is the very talented but also vulnerable, aging ex-champion at several weights. Ryan Garcia is the man on the way up. Bigger man as well, I think it's fair to say, big for the weight. Linares started his career obviously a couple of weights below. So on paper, yeah, but Linares still has plenty to offer in terms of ability. And if you're not the real deal, and if Garcia's not quite ready for this step up, and bear in mind he's still only 21, then Linares can expose him. Now, if Garcia comes through that testing with flying colours, as his handlers hope he does, then the sky's the limit really for him. And he is someone that can not only go through the weights, but has the kind of a different type of fan base. You know, he's got a lot of young, especially female fans behind him, and he's a bit of a heartthrob. He can also help capture that Latino market in the way De La Hoya did. Big shoes to fill, of course. But Garcia is the man they're grooming to replace the golden boy, I guess, in fans' eyes, especially the Hispanic fans. So we'll wait and see what happens, but it's going to be an interesting ride with him for sure. At super middleweight, we kind of have two guys vying for the future of the division in David Benavidez, in fact, and Caleb Plant. Both world champions, both good to watch in different ways. Benavidez is aggressive, really great hand speed, had problems outside the ring, obviously, with the drugs issue, but came back, beat Anthony Dirrell, forced a retirement there, got his old belt back, WBC. Then you've got Caleb Plant, really moving backstory, obviously lost his infant daughter, fights in her memory, slick fighter, really kind of nice on the eye to watch, building a bit of a fan base at home in Nashville after his last fight. The crowd were incredibly passionately behind him in the last one. Both of them really need to be tested, and against each other there's been a lot of talk about them unifying. There's a real rivalry there. Plant's a bit older, I think he's 27, and Benavidez is 22, 23. So it's going to be interesting to see when they meet, and I think whoever comes out on top in that fight can really take the next step and become kind of a pay-per-view headliner in their own right. You know, there's plenty of big fights available at super middle against some of the older guard as well, your Billy Joe Saunders, your Callum Smith, and Canelo himself. So there's options there, but those two I think need to fight to see who takes the step to that next level. Looking further down the weights, 22-year-old Shakur Stevenson, amateur star, delightful style, plenty to say for himself. Obviously, recently we saw this week complaining to Eddie Hearn about not being able to get the unification fight on with Josh Warrington. He's another one, Shakur, who's had his problems outside the ring. We hope they're firmly in the rearview mirror now. But he's someone who could really go far and still got the best part of his career in front of him. The only thing I'd say so far with this list is that nearly all the fighters, I think all the fighters so far, have been American. So which is great for the US, but maybe not so much for the rest of the world. Or maybe it's just a damning indictment of my lack of boxing knowledge beyond the Western world, and I'm sure some of you out there will be eager to correct me on that. I also wanted, for the sake of comprehensive outlook, I wanted to pick someone from Britain, and I wanted to pick a female boxer as well. Female boxer, again, is another boon for the USA, because Clarissa Shields already achieved historic things in both the amateur and the professional game. It's still only 25 years old. So she could easily be the face of female boxing worldwide for another 5 to 10 years. It's quite amazing considering what she's already achieved. But yeah, fair play to her. She seems to be a bit of a polarising figure. Not everyone likes her, I understand. But she's got a real inspiring story. And I think if people get to know the real Clarissa Shields a bit more, she could really cross over even more than she already has. So that's exciting for her. And on our side of the pond, I think Daniel Dubois, looking at a heavyweight division where Tyson Fury, as I mentioned earlier, and Anthony Joshua are both now the wrong side of 30. I think Deontay Wilder is as well. Dubois, if he gets past Joe Joyce in his next fight, he's 22, and the world's his oyster. He'll be on the cusp of a world title shot at an incredibly young age. It's a long time since we've seen a heavyweight that young, so close to world honours. He seems to have all the tools. He's got decent hand speed, while not amazing, real good power, but a real boxing brain as well, poise in the ring that belies his tender years. He moves well. He seems to be at least good at most facets of the game, and he's still progressing under Martin Bowers and the team at the Peacock Gym. I don't think there's any chance of him getting distracted either. Boxing really does seem to be an obsession for him. It's his life. His father's really into boxing and takes a real firm hand as well in guiding his career. His sister's obviously a boxer, his brother's a boxer. So it seems very unlikely that he's going to suddenly go on a wayward path. So I think if you're looking at a British guy to take boxing into the future, who could be a real superstar, his interviews are coming on now. He's quite a reserved character by nature, but he is improving in the kind of media relations aspects as well. And he's still very young, as I keep saying. So there's still a chance that he could get there. So I think the next stage, we're going to see people like the winner of Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez, for example, Noya Inoue is an excellent fighter. He's still only 27 as well. They'll be kind of bridging the gap between the current top superstars in boxing and the next generation that I've talked about coming through. But there is a real exciting future to come. And I'd really like to know who I've missed, basically. And I'm sure there are people. So tell us who your picks are, even if whether they agree with mine or not, of the boxing superstars of the future. And note, we're not just talking about pound for pound greats or people who are going to win multiple titles. We're talking about fighters who can generally cross over, who've got the exciting style in the ring and the personality outside it to really become household names. So let me know who you think that's going to be. Ideally, fighters under 25 years of age. And I'll respond to some of the comments. And yeah, really appreciate your time, as always. I'll be back next week, FLEXpectations, same time on Thursday. And this Monday, same time, Reflections. So don't miss that. See you all soon, and thanks again.